Well, the high one. Got the radio and we've got the telemetry hooked up, ready. And we got the Android GCS hooked up. Now, had a real problem with the S-Bus not working. Here's the S-Bus connection, and came with the actual converter to standard outputs. And it seemed like they were testing it with that because there's glue stick on the connectors here, which is, I guess, an indicator that those should be secure, and we'll do that if we have to use it. But when I hook up the S-Bus and I change the receiver to mode B or D on the settings, it still doesn't show up in the GCS, which is the ground control Android app. But with it set up this way, with the traditional setup, and in the mode A, it actually shows up in the GCS, and I was able to calibrate and go through all the assignments and check that. So as it stands now, I think that we might actually work with it that way because I want it to be safe. And if the S-Bus has a firmware issue or something like that, I really don't want to have to update the firmware. I've heard bad things about it. I'm starting to do some research about these now, and it's turning out that they do have some bugs. So we'll turn on the receiver. We'll plug in the Wi-Fi connection, repeater, I guess. Only one light goes on, the other one I guess is transmitting, but even when it's transmitting it doesn't really flash a light, so watch out, Bearcat. And now I'll go into the GCS program, Zero GCS it's called, and of course it's going to be communication disconnected because the quad itself is not on. Now I'm just going to plug in the quad itself, just the FC, not the ESCs. And exit this program. Open it again once the quad has started up. Now the lights I'm getting, I'm going to turn the quad around to show you this. I probably shouldn't do that on startup, but I have an indicator light here. I think that you can see that. And when the S-Bus is hooked up, I get 3 red flashes and then a blue flash repeated by another blue flash. Now this red flashing probably indicates that the ESCs don't have power. It is not totally started up that way, so I gotta expect that. But there is no clear defined flashing sequence like NASA gives you, a list of all the meanings of the flashes. It's not my multirotor, so I can't really be that upset about it, but the amount of support via email so far has been not too good for the owner, and I've seen quite a lot of reviews now and question and answers in forums not to be that positive towards it. Great footage out there with the gimbal, and the gimbal is respected as one of the better gimbals in the market. So, but we'll go back into Zero GCS now, and we should have red type up here, meaning that we've connected, but we're not connecting. So we have to check that we've got our settings set up. Now, even if I have Wi-Fi on here, turn it off, and then turn it on again, and it should connect with the actual Wi-Fi ground repeater here. Now I exit the screen, go back to the GCS program, and it vibrates, and I have version, power,
altitude -3,
fly, and it thinks it's at -3, which it probably is because
altitude -3,
we're in a bit of a basement here, but it has no connection to
altitude
the actual
-3,
satellites. So let's look at this data
altitude -3,
map. I don't want to look at that.
altitude
So right
-3,
now we have the throttle at the bottom, and it's indicating the right color
altitude
that it is at bottom.
altitude -3,
Green for the others. We move
altitude
the
-3,
aileron, and we have corresponding directions, so we don't have to reverse any channels.
altitude -3,
We have rudder, corresponding directions, no problem. Elevator,
altitude -3,
forward, backwards, no problem. Or that's throttle, sorry.
altitude -3,
left, right,
Altitude -3.
rudder left, right. So
Altitude
that's
-3.
okay. Not to take off, it says here. If I raise the throttle just 5%,
-3.
it says good. But there's no power to the motor, so I'm not sure about that.
-4.
Now if we go down a bit, we'll see we have all these options to change.
-4.
And we have a battery current and the actual mah being consumed.
Altitude -4.
We can look at settings, and this is where you calibrate your transmitter. Adjust transmitter is the one you want to hit.
-4.
Let's turn down her voice. So if you push that, then you can calibrate your transmitter, and then you can also quit setup after you finish that, and it'll set it. Capture transmitter center point after you calibrate it. Don't go next. You have to next has to be ready to be highlighted. You can't just skip it and be calibrated. So wait for the right amount of info to get to it. Then capture transmitter center point, and that will give you all your centers and the throttle at the bottom position. So that's the next one, and then you have all your information and inputs here for different parameters that you want to set, and you can set this to the actual FC via the Wi-Fi. Now go back to control, and this supposedly you can control the quad with this, which seems a bit sketchy to say the least, but Wi-Fi is not the most reliable system to be talking over it, at least not now. Maybe in 5 or 6 years it'll be better than any other system, but as far as technology goes now, we have to really improve a lot on distance and that kind of thing. So there you go. Hopefully I'll find the actual command stick movements to actually arm the thing, and we'll do that without the props attached, of course. I won't be attaching the props for a while, and we have to figure out getting the landing gear set up onto the traditional bus system here, where we have some channels that aren't assigned yet that we'll be able to use for the actual landing gear. Now I'll give you some looks at this close up. We have to mount a lot of this stuff still, so there's a video transmitter there with a clover leaf. Very large Metal Gear servos. We have an alarm 5.6 on the transmitter, so we're going to have to put that on charge and cut this video short. But there you go, that's the HighOne, and using a S-bus converter, which is just, it's crazy, but that's the way it's working right now. See ya.